Well, another day, another mountain moving monumental piece of news from MetaZoo. My friends, MetaZoo has made a major announcement regarding their upcoming event at New York Comic Con, with specifically with regards to the Casters Cup, the highly anticipated final tournament of well, maybe not the final tournament of the year, but the biggest tournament of the entire year, something that a lot of competitive MetaZoo players and fans have been eager to kind of tune into and watch if they're not playing themselves. This is a huge piece of news to digest. So we're going to talk about what is happening to the Casters Cup, what we can expect in the future, why I think this is happening, and what I think the fallout will be. Who does this affect? What can we expect? This is everything you need to know. Let's go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Argos Anonymous. I am Argos. If you have found us from somewhere out there in the interweb, you don't yet know who we are, consider joining us. Why not? Click subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really does help me out. Tune in for everything MetaZoo. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the Casters Cup announcement. Okay, so for the past year, ever since MetaZoo announced the Casters Cup 2023 location being New York Comic Con, there's been kind of like a background noise, like a constant sort of background chirping of people talking about how expensive it is to get to New York City at that time of year for the New York Comic Con. It's a huge event, and so hotels tend to book out. The New York Comic Con tickets themselves are very expensive. Getting a venue in that area that's large enough for that many people would be very, very expensive. Airfare is expensive. Everything about the trip is expensive. And a lot of competitive players, shocking as this may seem, are not billionaires, right? They're often, they go to these events because their passion for the game, for the play, is so fierce, but they're doing everything they can to cut costs. They're working as teams, they're traveling together, they're selling the swag they get at the event to pay for the lifestyle. Like this is not a top 1% passion, right? These are enthusiasts who love the cardboard and do whatever they can to go. But the bottom line is, New York City, New York Comic Con is an expensive location for Casters Cup. And this discussion has been taking place for quite some time in the background. So what this announcement is MetaZoo is relocating Casters Cup. Now, this is different than a cancellation. Of course, the dramatic news that would probably hit YouTube immediately would be MetaZoo cancels, but they haven't done it. So they're relocating the Casters Cup. They still plan to have it this year, but they have stated that they will not be choosing New York Comic Con as the location of the Casters Cup, right? And they're doing this essentially because they want it to be a big positive event. They've made some changes with regards to how they run their tournaments, the venues, the kind of venues that they choose, how they're streamlining it for players, side events and stuff like that. And they want to continue to progress towards increasingly positive experiences. And they're worried that the location is limiting for a lot of people, and that a lot of people it'll be a challenge for them to go. And they want to broaden access to the community. Essentially, MetaZoo over the last several months has progressively made changes, both in how they run products, how they advertise, how they're doing events, some of the design factors as well, to broaden the audience, to make MetaZoo less exclusive, right? Like how they talked about how they're going to be, let's say, taking some of the artwork and pulling it in from the fringes to make it more broadly accessible to a larger demographic. How they're partnering with huge multi-billion-dollar companies like Sanrio and pushing marketing through Arby's and stuff like this. These are all basically steps towards more like mass marketing, mass appeal. And NYCC is not a mass appeal, is not a broad event to have an event at. Like when you go to NYCC, you don't want to be sitting at an event hall all day, every day, competing. You want to be like at the convention, wandering around, going to the booths, like it's a real conflict. Like to spend that kind of money and not even be able to go to NYCC itself as much as you'd probably like is an emotional conflict for a TCG and collectible enthusiast, right? So I think that moving the venue to a more convenient forum for Casters Cup is a really good idea. However, I have noticed, and this makes perfect sense, the rebuttal to this news. The rebuttal is, and this hasn't been very many people, because I don't think too many people already had tickets personally. Dark Tower just finished. The last MetaZoo competitive event just finished, and I think people are starting to plan their trips. But I bet you some people already had plane tickets, right? I bet most people did not, but I bet a couple of people already have plane tickets. And unlike hotels, hotels are very easy to refund. The vast majority of hotels will give you your money back within, like, if as long as you cancel 40 hours before you go. And then you have other people who would have gone to NYCC anyway and are still going because MetaZoo will still be there. And it's going to be a huge event. They're partnering with Sanrio. They're doing another Hello Kitty promotion for the Karami's Cryptid Carnival. It's going to be lines out there. It's going to be a massive, really fun event. But there's going to be some people that have already made plans, that have already bought tickets to go, that don't care about New York Comic Con. There can be a few people that bought the plane ticket that now only have about 3 weeks notice to cancel, and they might not be able to get their money back for the flight unless they paid for insurance. And even then, sometimes it's a little bit complicated. You know how those things are. Airlines suck, right? So my suggestion would be, and I know this isn't always possible, but I think the MetaZoo community would really appreciate a more advanced notice on these events because you have a passionate MetaZoo fan base and player base. We love the zoo. Man. But the reality is it can be challenging to plan complex travel arrangements to difficult locations in just 3 weeks. And so a lot of people start maybe 5 weeks early. Plane tickets, the prices start to go up if you wait too long. So a lot of people are buying plane tickets 4 or 5 weeks early. So when these changes come in 3 weeks before an event, it's going to affect some people. I didn't notice a lot of negative buzz. I actually haven't found a single person who was negatively affected by it. It's more just the concept, but I think there's probably somebody out there who's affected by this. So my suggestion is to MetaZoo, I think it's a great idea moving the event to more conveniently reached locations and doing whatever you can to broaden access to the event. I think the only way that MetaZoo could improve on that decision would be making these announcements with more advanced notice so that people can plan. And the same goes for the location and dates, the specifics for tournaments. I think if you have a big tournament that people are planning to travel to, basically the more advanced notice you can give, like the more people will go. You know, I mean, people have still been going to these. You have hundreds of players going to these things, but like, you know, the more advanced notice you have, the more people will go. So it's a simple equation. If you want fewer people to go to your events, give them less notice. And if you want more people to go to your events, give them more notice. Like, it's very simple, you know? And I understand that logistics is challenging, staffing is challenging, venues are challenging, maybe a lot of things are in flux, a lot of things in the air. I get that. Advance notice can be difficult because then there could be a cancellation or some kind of an issue. But at the end of the day, if you want more people to go to events and if you want more people to be happier, if that's even possible in 2023 with the internet as it is right now, if you want people to be happier and go to your events, give them more notice. And if you want people to be kind of grumbly and fewer people to go to your events, give them less notice. And it's a simple equation, and MetaZoo will have to decide what to do with that. So let's take a look at the announcement here, actually from MetaZoo. I'm going to put it up on my screen so you can all read it for yourselves. This is the Discord announcement from MetaZoo itself. You can freeze frame and read through it if you want to. But the bottom line is that they're really focusing on this massive deal with the multi-billion-dollar international company Sanrio. This is a huge partnership. They are going to blow up. My opinion is New York Comic Con, MetaZoo is going to take it by storm the same way they did San Diego Comic Con. They're going to have new Hello Kitty stuff. They're going to have Sanrio, MetaZoo stuff, partnerships. They're going to have the Karami's Cryptid Carnival set, probably pre-orders and stuff like that. And they're going to have lines out the door. The fire marshal's going to shut. Now, hopefully they're probably working with the event coordinators in advance to try and, so they don't get, you know, the fire marshal like piques their interest and shuts them down because they're too hot. They're too hot for New York Comic Con. There's probably going to be insanity at this event. And let's be honest, like, it's going to be challenging to run a huge event that they want to be a really positive experience for players. It's going to be challenging for MetaZoo to simultaneously manage the biggest competitive event of the year, Caster's Cup, and the biggest promotional event of the year, New York Comic Con, with a huge IP partner, Sanrio. Like, they need to focus on one of these things at a time in order to have them both go well. So there's really no question at all For anyone who can reasonably think through this, there is no question at all that moving Caster's Cup to a more convenient forum at a later date makes perfect sense. And my request to MetaZoo, on behalf of the community, I assume, would be that the more advanced notice you can give to the player base, the better. It doesn't even matter when Caster's Cup is. It could be delayed a little bit. It could be delayed months. It could be delayed into 2024. The bottom line is expectation and communication. Expectation and communication. If you manage expectations and you communicate in advance and with clarity, I think the community will accept almost whatever you have to say. Good news, bad news, intermediate news, lukewarm news, hot news, doesn't matter. Expectation and communication. And I think that MetaZoo has dramatically improved on this in the last few months. They've given updates as far as cancellations and delays. They've given updates as far as why something is delayed. You know, what happened at the factory, what happened over here. They're communicating much more thoroughly in their announcements. They're clearly making an effort to improve on these areas. So I'm optimistic, actually, that things are moving forward for MetaZoo with these massive partnerships and these new products and these big events and a more organized focus on how to communicate clearly with the community and, you know, who communicates and where and through what forum. I almost feel like MetaZoo's kind of growing up. I think it's turning a corner. Market activity has started to kind of pick back up, you know, like sales on TCG Player and singles and some of the higher priced items are like kind of curving around and moving. I don't know. Is it just me? I feel like our little kid might be growing up a little bit. Anyway, that's all I have for now. What do you think about the change for Caster's Cup? Do you see any issues with it? Are you happy about it? Do you think it'll increase the availability of the event to like a broader population of people if they choose a more convenient forum and time for Caster's Cup? Do you think it'll increase the number of people who participate? What about the fact that they're talking about doing some of the initial Caster Cup rounds on the MetaZoo online game client Cryptid Clash? That has been something MetaZoo has pitched, that the initial rounds of Caster's Cup, the first rounds of elimination, might be available to literally everybody by pumping everybody through the online app, which would also introduce all of the players to the official MetaZoo app, which would be a great way to sort of get the app off the ground and get a player base moving on the app. It's good for the app, and it's potentially good for Caster's Cup. It's good for MetaZoo, good for the community. That's what I think. What do you think about that? And then the top 32 or 64 or whatever would go to an actual location to hold the top cut for Caster's Cup. These are all the things that are in the air. And MetaZoo will make all of this more clear at a later time and let us know. And all I ask is when you figure it out, let us know in advance with as much advance notice as possible. At a minimum, a month is what I would think. I think that's like the bare bones sort of minimum for notifications. And that's all I got for now. Thank you, MetaFam, for stopping by. As always, I do appreciate this opportunity to entertain you fine peoples of MetaZoo. This is Argos, signing out.